Howdy everybody, welcome to my route guide here. This is my first time making a guide like this, so I hope you all enjoy. This is mainly intended for people who have difficulties learning from just reading and have difficulties taking in information that way, and they may need audio, visual, or practical stimulus, which is what I'm here to try and provide. Before we start, feel free to check on any gaps in the rules or any specifics by using the Law of Route guide that comes with the game. I'll include a link for it down here, down in the description. It's very neatly ordered into sections, so it's good to find very specific things that your group might be struggling on with specifics and all that. Do not try to read it all at once because there is a lot there and your brain might explode. Most importantly, I recommend taking your time with the game, as learning the systems and mechanics of it is just as fun as the game itself. And yeah, I really hope you have a good time with this and that you learn something from it. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so here are a few basic things I'm going to cover in this review. This guide. I'm basically just going to talk about why you would want to play this game and why I think it's cool. I'm going to talk about the basic, general game mechanics. And this PowerPoint was back from when I was going to fit everything into this one video. But when I recorded it, it ended up being an hour. So I've decided to make the 4 main factions its own separate video, and they will be covered in a separate video. So just in this one, covering basic game mechanics and such. Alright, I've kept you long enough, let's jump right into it. So why would you want to play Route? Well, Route is an asymmetric turn-based strategy game for up to 4 players. Every game is different, due to a massive variety in playable characters, maps and additional changes. The Tavern game option was just added in Tabletop Simulator, which allows you to hire soldiers to your army, which adds another way to rethink your strategy, which is, you know, pretty cool. It also kind of gives you an idea that they're continually adding more stuff. I don't know if they're still doing this, but it's neat. Wonderful art by Kyle Ferrin can be seen all over this game. I'm going to link his Twitter or something below. From its cover, to its map, to its cards, and to its character UI. It adds a very genuine and inviting touch to the game that cannot be seen in very many other properties. It's quite unique in that sense. In terms of the gameplay, there's tons of intricacies and strategies to learn. If you and some friends want a good time sink over the next few weeks or so while we're all in hanging out at home scenarios and stuff, I don't think you can go wrong with Route. I think it's really solid. And I highly recommend it. You can get it on Tabletop Simulator to try it out. I highly recommend checking out the physical version, because you get everything that comes with the game in person, and it looks much nicer there. But unfortunately, that's not really feasible for everyone, and especially not at the time I'm writing this. Let's jump right into it. I don't want it to take too long again. Your main objectives within Route can be pretty similar at times, but will mainly be dependent on which faction you choose to play. The Marquis are reliant on territory control, defensive play and resource management. The Eyrie flourish with strong planning, aggression and resource management, somewhat like an inverse of the Marquis, but very similar in strength. The Woodland Alliance requires patience, timing and a brain big enough to actually figure out how to play them. And lastly, the Vagabond is the one you play if you want to quietly observe the gameplay habits of your opponents and form truces and alliance whilst passively scoring points from doing your own quests. And there's a lot of variety with the Vagabond. You can describe them in a lot of ways. I'll get around to them eventually. In terms of actual core gameplay, each turn is made up of Birdsong, Daylight and Evening, and they are played in that order. Instructions for each of the factions are on each board. So again, that is something that you will easily be able to discover just by playing. Just as a quick little overview of each of the phases, Birdsong tends to make up passive effects that are necessary to prep for Daylight. Daylight is where most of the action happens. Most of the factions will use this phase for battling, moving, recruiting allies, and anything else stated on the character board. Evening tends to be quite simple, as many factions simply draw cards and then end their turn. All of this is listed on your character boards, so you can generally infer what you can and can't do from there. How to win. Each faction has a variety of ways to gain points, but most commonly points are earned either by placing and maintaining buildings or crafting cards. You win the game by being the first to get to 30 points in most cases. However, there are these things called dominance cards, which completely change up how the game is won for that player that uses them. So what dominance cards do is they allow the user to win the game by controlling a number of specific clearings on the map. They need to maintain control of these clearings for a whole turn until next daylight in order to win. As a counterbalance, your point token is removed from the scoreboard, so you can no longer win by gaining points if you play this card. On paper, the card sounds really busted, but the areas you need to control are very spread out, so your opponents should always have opportunities to counter this strategy. It's definitely a card that can really spice up the gameplay. Here we go, the map. The map is a woodland forest separated into 12 clearings that are connected by paths. There are 3 types of suits within this game, and each suit has 4 clearings. A fox suit, a rabbit suit, and a mouse suit. Right? You can tell them apart as fox is represented by red, rabbit by yellow, and mouse by orange. There's also a marker for each clearing, indicating which clearing is which. However, you can also tell which clearing it is based on the color of the trees in the clearing. So as you can see here, the red trees are the fox clearings, the yellow ones are the rabbit, so on and so forth. Alright. When you move from clearing to clearing, you may take any number of warriors from one clearing. So if you have like a whole built up army just in one little space, you can move them all the way from that one to the one they're going to. But you have to use a move action each time you want to move from one clearing to another. Alright, so the cards. 3 specific cards are given to each player at the start of the game based on their chosen faction. You can only hold 5 cards in your hand at once. If you are asked to draw more, you discard your cards down to 5 afterwards. Cards en route are crafted in different ways by each faction, but commonly you will need crafting materials in the specified clearings on the card. To find which materials you need, all you need to do is simply look in the bottom left or top right of the card. Much like clearings, cards are also sorted into suits of fox, rabbit, and mouse. However, there's also a 4th suit, the bird suit, which essentially acts as like a multicolor card. It can act as every other suit. However, if a player is required to take a card for another player, bird cards are taken first. So it's highly incentivized that you play bird cards as soon as possible, because even though they are very valuable, saving them might lead to you losing them. Cards with persistent effects are placed near the side of your board instead of discarded. This is because you are now allowed to play these effects whenever you wish, following the rules on the card. As an example, the tax collector requires 3 building materials, 1 in each type of clearing in order to craft. Once this is done, the card goes to the side of the player's board. Persistent effects are indicated by their grey text boxes, which you can see there. For the tax collector specifically, it states that you are allowed to use its effect once per turn in daylight. Spending a dominance card results in placing it near the map instead, allowing other players to take it. During daylight, another player may take the dominance card by spending a card of matching suit. Essentially, spending a dominance card would be if you don't want to use the effect on it, but you want to use it for something that your character can do specifically. Like, I know the Alliance can use cards to gain sympathy around the map, instead of just crafting the effects on the cards. So that's one way it could be used. Combat occurs between individual clearings when one faction uses an action to engage in battle. The faction that initiated combat is the attacker, and the defending faction is the defender. 2 dice are rolled for the battle. The attacker uses the highest and the defender uses the lowest. Each individual warrior in a clearing can deal 1 hit, and take 1 hit. You can only deal 1 hit per warrior. Buildings can also take 1 hit, and when destroyed, reward the attacking player with 1 point. In a clearing with no defending warriors, attackers deal an extra hit in combat. So basically, if you were just fighting buildings, you wouldn't be able to miss. Also, I need to mention that the dice that are rolled are numbered from 0 to 3. So it is technically possible to miss in this game. And it's also possible to deal a maximum of 3 damage per combat. Alright. That was the main bulk of the general rules and stuff. Using these, you should be able to jump in and then learn whichever character you want to play on the fly. There are plenty of available resources within the game itself to learn that, and I will also have more videos coming on each individual faction, why you'd want to play them, what they can do, and what kind of play styles they accommodate, and that will be coming out fairly soon, depending on when this one gets out. Oh boy. Yeah, I've been working on this for a good while. It's a good relief from the Rona, but I don't know. I started wanting to make it on a PowerPoint just because I thought it'd be funny, and well, now it's a bit of a it's a bit messy, but hopefully it's good. Yeah. Anyway, I'll catch you all later.